I'm Danielle Mullins, Miss Earth USA, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Good evening, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project, and my special guest for today is Danielle Mullins, who is Miss Earth USA. Danielle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. Dare I ask, how are things going? You've got a couple of months before a very, very large pageant. Is everything under control?
I would think so. I like to think so. Right now, we're focusing on getting my videos turned in to Miss Earth. So I've been recording my scripts. We've been wrapping up some filming. We're navigating through wardrobe. I've been working with my coaches nearly every day, just making sure that when I walk off that stage, I feel like I've truly left everything on there. I don't have a single regret. So I've even been able to get a little ahead on getting my house clean. I don't know how long it'll stay that way. It's not 100% there yet, but that's a win in my book.
Would you be brave enough? You don't have to, but would you be brave enough to turn the camera around so that we can see your... You don't have to. I am just curious.
I'm looking around.
Describe the scene in front of you.
Let's see. Well, right now I see a tripod and a ring light in front of me. And then, I do still kind of have my makeup out here from when I was getting ready earlier. But you can kind of see that looks nice and pretty there. I do have a vacuum cleaner to my right that I had to tear apart earlier today, and I haven't yet put it back together. So we'll just leave that mess and pretend it's not there.
I don't think that looks too bad at all. Maybe there's other areas that you can't show us that are worse. That looks pretty reasonable.
So much to see from here.
Yeah. Let me start with, obviously you're heading over to Vietnam to represent the United States at Miss Earth, and the States has a pretty... You've got kind of a legacy to live up to. Obviously, Lindsay Coffey back in the pandemic, which seems so long ago now, 2020, was the United States' first ever winner of Miss Earth. And then you had Marissa, who did very well. So you've had a couple of United States competitors who've done well. Has that crossed your mind at all in terms of, obviously, you're doing all the prep, doing all the hard work? Do you feel at all that there's like a legacy to live up to?
Yes, but not in the sense it's created a crippling sense of pressure, if that makes sense. I absolutely want to be my best out there and follow in that legacy. We've had so many, even beyond Lindsay, that have placed within the top 5. I believe USA is one of the few countries, maybe even the only country, that's had somebody place in all placements of the top 4. And there's the elemental titles. So there is a pressure, but not in a sense it's going to cripple me. In a sense, it's actually just really inspiring. And I'm so grateful that I do have such a successful line behind me so that I can sit down with them, chat, and pick their brains and look to see what I can do to put forth my best foot.
What has it been like having that support network? I mean, not every, well, probably, as you said, very few countries actually have that track record and so many people that they can sort of ask, hey, tell me about this, what happens here, how should I prepare for this? So obviously you've got your coaches, you've got your director, Laura Clark. Whose ear do you chat to? Like when things are going a bit, getting a bit hectic and getting a bit crazy, are you chatting to the past queens? Are you chatting to the director, your director? Are you chatting to your coach? Are you chatting to your 2 cats? Like when things get a bit hairy, who are you chatting to?
Honestly, everybody. I love to hear viewpoints from all sides. And I know I'm kind of that person in a sense. When chaos strikes, it can be hard to clear my mind and just navigate through it and realize, you only have to put that one step in front of the other. You're going to get through it. Had plenty of hiccups on my journey to being Miss Earth USA or even Miss Kentucky Earth. It took me a second to just stop and breathe to get through it. But I love being able to lean on my director, Laura. We chat nearly every day at this point. I've leaned on Marissa, I've leaned on Lindsay. I mean, even from the moment I was crowned, I had, the trail of sister queens behind me, all telling me, whatever you need throughout this year, we're here for you. We're so happy to help you. I have great coaches that have been behind my back since before becoming Miss Earth USA, and I have some now that I've added to the team. I truly could not be more grateful for the support team that I have. Even, beyond the organization, I have my friends and my family who always lean a listening ear, who always have another side of the story to give me or great advice to give me. And, maybe this isn't their lane, but they're here for me and they're going to hold my hand and help me get through it no matter what it takes.
Tell me how you got involved in pageantry to begin with. I was listening to your interview with Casey over at the Crowning Moment podcast, and Casey's a good friend of mine.
Oh,
And so I heard a little bit about it, but from what I remember, it doesn't seem like it was a straightforward, I started pageantry when I was 6, and I've been doing pageantry for 20 years since then, and here I am. Give us some insight into your pageantry journey.
that's wild to think if I had started at 6, this would mark 20 years. Ah. So I did start my first one at a young age, and it just wasn't something that my mom really wanted me to pursue. She had a viewpoint on pageantry that they were very subjective and that it would leave me as a very insecure person and looking to always compare myself to somebody else instead of being able to stand true into my own. So we were done with pageantry, so we thought, and I had a friend growing up who showed me a different side of pageantry. I saw that laugh. Isn't it funny? Anybody who says they're done with pageantry is truly never done with pageantry. I
I
really
don't believe any of you guys. Like whenever any of you tell me that, I'm like, yeah, right. And I was born yesterday. I'm sorry. I don't believe any of you.
Truly, though. So I got really started in my teens. I started taking it seriously and looking to better myself and see where I could go. But I lacked that confidence. I just didn't think I could ever overcome an interview. I definitely didn't want to pursue a pageant that had a talent. I played the trumpet in middle school, but I was not going to play it in front of anybody. So I found that I was doing pageants that were more so just the stage competitions, and they didn't have too much behind them because that was what was easier for me to do and compete in. But then when I tried to branch out, it was so defeating because I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't hire a coach. I tried to figure it out on my own, but I didn't take it seriously. So, in trying to become that perfect pageant Patty to win and do what I thought would take to be successful, I actually just built a new world of insecurities. And I will say, in this time too, before building all of that, I really saw myself grow. I became somebody who could proudly stand on a stage, who could take a microphone and talk into it. It was that interview where I really just lost my self confidence. So at 18, I said, I'm done with this. I wanted nothing to do with pageantry. I pursued other opportunities. I went on to college. I went on a self love journey. And in this time, I found the Miss Earth organization. And right before Lindsay would be crowned Miss Earth is when I started watching from a distance, just curious to see what this organization was about. Because for me, I had such a passion for the environment and for the beauty industry, and seeing the slogan of being Beauties for a Cause really honed in for me. And I remember sitting at my computer in the pandemic feeling like I was made for this, that this was my calling. This was time for me to come out of retirement. So when Kentucky had their first pageant back in 2021 for the Earth System, I found out about 2 weeks beforehand, but I decided, you know what, it's now or never. You have to rip the Band-Aid off and just go for it. I was totally dead last. It was not successful. I second guessed myself. I figured it was a waste of time, a waste of money. I bought a whole new pageant wardrobe. But I knew I could either let my insecurities win or I could work on myself and continue to overcome. So that was my journey for the next year, and captured the Miss Kentucky Earth title in 2022, and the rest was history. To longly, shortly put it.
So that year, the year between when you said you entered the Miss Kentucky Earth and placed dead last to the year where you won, and then obviously went on to win the national title as well, what did you work on? Because a lot of girls, would love to follow your path, maybe not starting with coming dead last. They would like to just, enter and win straight away, but that's very rare. That's kind of like a lightning striking situation. But I think they'd love to hear, what exactly did you work on? And specifically for me, was it working on the pageant stuff, or was it working on yourself? or was it a blend of both?
Definitely a blend of both. I saw the quote from Miss Universe recently that training for a pageant is like training for the Olympics. And I've never seen it more perfectly put before in my life, because it's more than just the physical. It's more than just what you bring to the stage, the interview room. It's truly something that starts within your mindset. So for me, looking back, when I walked off that Miss Kentucky Earth stage in 2021, feels like a lifetime ago, I decided I was going to work on my mindset, first starting by believing in myself, working on that affirmation every day. I am Miss Kentucky Earth USA. I even took a picture of the winner from 2020 and I photoshopped the crown and the sash on myself and I set it as my wallpaper on my phone, because if I could see it, made it feel more believable and
Yeah.
more attainable. And when your mind believes that you can do something, you stop at nothing until you can make it happen. So I realized too, I also had to stop and ask for help, which is something I'm not very good at doing. I hired a coach. I had had 2 coaching sessions right before Miss Kentucky Earth, and I figured for sure, like, it's riding a bicycle. I'll have these 2 sessions in 2 weeks. I'll be good to go after 6 years off, and that was not the case. So I began working with a multitude of different coaches, and I know some people are very loyal to just one, and some people are like me and they find value in a multitude of coaches. And for me, I was able to pinpoint what it was I needed to work on. And I found somebody who specialized in that. So I found
Mm.
somebody who specialized in my mindset issues and seeing the insecurities and the intimidations I've faced in the interview room to help me overcome that. And I had somebody who really helped me on my walk, who helped me figure out how you make the hips do the things. You know what I mean?
Make their hip do
Make
the
the hips
things.
do the things. But the hand motions really helps that. Goodness. And then I had somebody also in my corner to help teach me to get my point across in the interview room as well, which was another area I struggled in. So I was able to pinpoint what it was I had to focus on and then pull help from different people who specialized in that so that I could put the best me on that stage, the best energy I possibly could, and walk out with absolutely no regrets.
I love that because I worked for over 10 years as a tennis coach, and I always had this. And tennis has much like what you said, the analogy with the Olympics or Miss Universe. There's multiple components to anything, particularly in sport. And for tennis, you have your physical conditioning. You need to know how to hit a shot, obviously, but then the mental side plays a really big part of it. And I always thought that as a coach, I would always encourage my students to try other coaches, because I think there are some coaches who have particular expertise in a particular area. And I've never understood why one coach would want to say, no, you have to come to me because I'm the best at everything. Because I don't see how one coach can possibly be the best at everything. I think that's just a lie. But I'm curious as to how did you sort of captain the ship? Because for a lot of girls, that would be quite intimidating. Because let's say it's simpler to just go to one coach, right? You just book the coach, you just go to the one coach for everything. You had to manage multiple coaches, and sometimes ego enters the equation. Sometimes one coach doesn't like hearing that you're working with another coach. But how did you sort of captain your ship, so to speak, to get the exact help that you needed?
I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It is hard to reach out to new people. It is hard. At one point, I took a sponsored Instagram post that popped up in my news feed, and I drove 3 hours one way to go see this coach I didn't really know a lot about, but I loved what I was seeing on social media about her. And I believe everything happens for a reason. And I just felt like that Instagram ad was a sign in the right path. And I'm so grateful I did that. She's been one of my biggest support systems ever since. I absolutely love her to death, and she was well worth the 3-hour drive. And I honestly can't wait to make it again to get to go see her. But even navigating through it, I've been really fortunate that the coaches I've worked with, I haven't dealt with the ego. And I think, for one, if you have a coach that's in that mindset, it's me or nobody else,
Mm,
maybe that's not the coach for you. If you're fully
yeah.
happy with the way things are going and you see the results you want to see, then that's your person. But for me, I know I don't like to be put in a situation where I have to pick and choose. I want to be able to have that freedom to make the choice that's best for me, because
Yeah.
if you have those real, raw, honest conversations with myself, I go through all my score sheets with a fine tooth comb. I take all the feedback personally to heart, constantly recording it so I can look to see as well and go back through and watch what I need to fine tune and perfect. I don't
Mm.
even really like to use that word, but what I need to work on, I should say. So just having that mindset and really getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and putting yourself out there and having those hard conversations is what made the difference for me.
Can I just get you to look back on your journey, back from when you entered Miss Kentucky Earth for the first time, so 2021, I believe, and then the 2022 version of yourself, who would go on to win the national title. Compare and contrast for me, if you would, the 2022 version, which say is you, this, the current you, and compare her against the Danielle Mullins, the 2021 version. Compare and contrast for me.
You're going to see a physical difference. I was still blonde at the time. I'm a natural blonde. Fun fact about me. Just got a wild, crazy hair. I think dark hair would look good. Noticed my hair was getting darker. So here we are. Anyway, but to compare and contrast beyond the physical aspects of it all, that version was still in that pageant Patty mindset. She wanted to be everything she thought the judges needed to be. She wore a white dress. Winners wear whites. I still love a white dress on me, don't get me wrong, but that had been my color choice for so long. I was way too scared to step out of my comfort zone and try something new. I had way too many white dresses. Her interview was very play it safe, in a very play it safe color, same color she's always worn. Everything I did that year was just so play it safe. There was no risk taken, not in the interview. I was so
Mm.
nervous, I couldn't even overcome my nerves to navigate through that interview. I had no clue what I was doing. But the person she was in 2022 took those risks. She wore a red gown and she wore a plain gown. She had never worn something without the beads and the rhinestones. She took a risk in the interview room with her wardrobe. Everything she did was something new out of her comfort zone, but something that she really loved and something that was really her. And even in that interview room, when it came to what came out of her mouth, she talked about the topics that were important to her and made sure that the judges saw who she really was and not who she thought the judges wanted to see. And that was what makes me so proud to look back on, is how far I've come in overcoming that fear of judgment and wanting to fit the perfect mold and just being able to
Mm.
say, this is me. Yeah, you get what you get, you like it or you don't. And if you don't, I'll move on. If not, I'm going to stay here. And so far, we're still here. I'm very fortunate for that.
I can't imagine you blonde. I'm just I'm sitting here just trying to because the brunette, the dark hair suits you so well,
Thank
and
you.
I don't. It doesn't always suit. You know what I mean? Like some people like, oh, and then you just have to say, yeah, I really really like that.
Well, thank
But
you.
it just suits so. I can't imagine you blonde. If I saw you blonde, I'd be thinking, no, she's dyed her hair blonde. For some
I
reason,
wish
I
I
have a.
had a photo nearby or something. It is night and day difference. But it
I'm
has started
sure.
to get a little darker, so I figured why not? We'll speed it up, see what happens. I
I'm sure I
might have
can.
had a slight panic attack when I first saw it, but I did really like it. Word to the wise,
I,
always be full face of glam, how you like to be day to day when you do something so drastic to your hair like that.
I have had some experience a while ago dyeing my hair weird and wonderful colors, blonde, blue, red, and I was always excited just to see something so different. Probably it's a slightly different emotion for you guys when the hair is so important and you look at it and go, "Oh my God, what have I done?" But I'm having difficulty imagining you as a blonde. But one thing that I want to ask you, because obviously Miss Earth USA is Miss Earth USA, and it's got a heavy environmental advocacy. So, what is your main environmental advocacy? And I guess if you backtrack for us, how did you get interested in the environment in the first place?
Start with my interest because I grew up on a farm and I was my papa's right hand. I was his shadow. I made every step with him. And I really learned to connect with nature and that when we take care of our planet, it takes care of us. And I loved going out there to help them feed the cows and the chickens and get my hands dirty in the garden. But then fast forward all these years, I always have loved the glitz and the glam. I've loved makeup. I've loved playing in my grandma's makeup growing up. So now, as a makeup artist, as my day job, I've been able to combine my two passions, which is in part wildlife conservation, but also revolutionizing the environment through the beauty industry. And I work a lot with Wands for Wildlife. We take discarded, disposable tools that, as a makeup artist, you need for sanitary reasons.
Hmm.
And we're able to provide medical aid to wildlife animals in need, but also advocating for our products to use cleaner ingredients, because what people don't think about, when you wash your face and all that makeup runs down the drain, it infiltrates our waterways, our soil, and if it's a toxic ingredient running through, then it's a toxic ingredient running through our planet. Using
Mm.
cleaner ingredients, using vegan ingredients, our beauty products should never come at the harm of an animal or our environment, but also promoting sustainable packaging. So one of the cool things I got to do this year as Miss Earth USA is I collaborated. Oh, look, I literally just happen to have things here because I didn't fully clean. But I got to work with the Lady Code Shop, and we put together the full Earth Queen collection. They're all vegan, cruelty-free products. It was very neat to do. This was my love product of the year. We created 2 separate eyeshadow palettes and a mascara. So we were on top of promoting everything that I love in makeup for the environment. We were also able to take the mascara and donate a percentage of the sales back to Wands for Wildlife to help them with their efforts, because they honestly go so much further beyond the wands. They're looking to help at-home rehabilitators, helping them whatever they need financially, anything beyond just the makeup. And that's what I love about this, that it's truly so much more than just what meets the eye. It goes on a much deeper level.
Can you show us the palette again? I want to have a closer
Oh,
look. And
yeah,
also for people who might want to buy it, are they able to buy it? Can they go somewhere to purchase it online?
absolutely. It is on the Lady Code Shop. So the big palette, I haven't fully cleaned my house, is still packed away from my last trip somewhere in a suitcase. But this one is the Elementals palette. So this is your glitter elementals, and it's named after ultimately our sisterhood and all the different queens we have in our elemental court at Miss Earth USA.
That's perfect. I love the idea of that. I don't know anything about makeup, but I love the way that that's packaged and marketed.
Thank you.
Um, just to backtrack to what you were saying about the makeup sometimes having toxic ingredients in it. I know you spent a lot of time with Gracie Pfaff, who is your
So,
Miss Earth Eco, and she's allergic to, well, I say aluminium. I say aluminium. You Americans say aluminum. We can argue on that later. But I remember talking to her and her sort of journey trying to find makeup that didn't have aluminum in it, because apparently it was absolutely everywhere. So I think it's really interesting in terms of, because the beauty industry sometimes is not seen as something that really supports the environment. And to be fair, sometimes some of the big companies don't do things that are best for the environment. Maybe they prioritize their profits a little bit too much. So, how important is it for you as a makeup artist to be not only doing something, but to be promoting your business, your passion in a way that actually does give back to the earth, rather than, putting the toxic minerals in it or harming animals and things like that? Because as you said, you're balancing two passions here. You grew up on a farm, and then you love the glitz and the glam. And I know from interviewing farm girls, you don't wear the glitz and glam unless you guys do things differently. I've never seen anyone with a full face of makeup with their hand up a cow. It doesn't. Maybe it's done somewhere, and I say that because I've been given certain images that I can't get out of my mind. But how important is it to you as a makeup artist to be able to do something and go, actually, this is giving back to the earth rather than taking away from it?
So important. My journey as a makeup artist started in sales, and I sometimes you just don't know what it is that you don't know. We want
Mm,
to believe that the big companies behind this, that even our countries who regulate this, are taking care of us and thinking about our best interest at heart, and are ensuring that these companies are using clean ingredients and that they're not testing their products on animals. But what I learned through sales and working on the back end is that unfortunately not every company thinks like that. And
mm,
here in the States, we definitely have room for opportunity for more regulations against products in their packaging. But being a makeup artist and being able to share what I've learned from working in sales and now starting my own business as an artist with my clients and even my former customers who purchase from me is huge. I see so many women, and hey, there's men that love makeup too. There's men that are about their skincare too. It is not something that's just gender specific here. But being able to share more with them and to touch more lives through it and help them see that, our beauty products don't have to harm the environment. There are
Mm,
options out there. It takes a little bit of research, but that's where I'm in such a great position to be able to share with them something like the Lady Code Shopper. Another favorite of mine is Milk Makeup or Tarte Makeup, companies that are helping set the standard and do something that's helping our Mother Earth instead of harming it is very, I man, it's so huge to me, and it's what I love so much about what I do. It's more than just painting somebody's face and saying, "Ah, I do feel fabulous now." It's being
mm,
able to take that awareness one step further and be able to share with them, like, "Hey, this is why I use this," or "Here's something really cool for your makeup bag that I thought maybe you would like to know."
mm.
Because also too, man, it just circles back into the ingredients. Our skin is our largest organ, and it's another thing people don't think about is, the products we put into our skin ultimately seep also into our bloodstreams. So we have to be so cautious about what it is that we're putting on our face constantly.
Yeah, I mean, there was an incident somewhere in the United States where the tap water had become toxic. I think something had seeped into it, and you shower in it. You might think, well, I'm not drinking it, but it seeps right through the skin and ends up in your bloodstream. Just from a business perspective, how difficult is it as a makeup artist? So I imagine that you travel, let's say, to a pageant, and you bring a lot of your own materials and products, if not all. Um, how difficult is it to make sure that all of your products, or as many products as possible, are actually environmentally friendly? Because in a lot of other businesses, for example, if you want to do something sustainably or ethically, it's not always easy because it tends to cost more. So, is it the same case in makeup? As being a makeup artist, is it how easy is it to actually make sure everything you're using is ethically sound and aligns with your beliefs?
There is definitely a barrier to it. And one thing too that we see is that there's not a lot of opportunities for it. For instance, disposable products are oftentimes what we use. And there are some disposable products you don't have to have. There are makeup tools for it. But then the
Hmm.
question becomes, how clean is that makeup tool getting? Is it something I know for sure is going to be clean enough in between clients that I can use it again? So it becomes a matter of safety versus the environment. And that's a tricky line to play into. So being able to have something like Once for Wildlife and say, I know I'm not discarding it. It's going to be used for good. It'll be able to be continued to use for good. And I know it'll be clean enough for them to use it for medical aid or whatever it is they might need to use it for is really crucial. But even beyond, looking to see just what's available. Anytime I find something new, I start making small little changes. Like I've swapped out all my
Hmm.
hairbrushes for hairbrushes made out of recycled plastic because that's something that now we're seeing more of. So I do love to see the change the industry is making in the direction they're headed towards. There's still just a lot of room for growth, but it's something that I pray we see happen sooner rather than later. So we can continue, especially as artists, to make that change. And
Hmm.
that's kind of the nice thing too about working so many pageants is that I connect with other artists. So I'm able to share with them what I've learned about sustainability to help them practice more sustainability with their own business.
Have you found that in the industry in general? I'm talking about the makeup industry, not the pageant industry for a second, but in the makeup industry in general, at least the makeup artists that you've worked with, are they always interested as you in the environment? Like, is there that push from the makeup artists themselves to really find stuff that not only doesn't look great, but actually is great for the environment as well? Because I feel like overall our society is becoming more environmentally aware, which is a good thing. Just in your industry in particular, have you found that there's a lot of people such as yourself who are interested in finding well sourced products? or is it still a little bit of the hang back where people are just using the products they've used for years, even though maybe, let's say, they're not so good for the environment?
I've actually gotten great feedback on it. I work in a pageant photography studio throughout the week, and there's 3 separate artists there, so I was able to place a box for them to collect their mascara wands into,
Mm,
and I notice every time I come in, that box gets fuller and fuller, so I think being able to just help the solution and show people the way to do so makes it easier for them and also makes it seem more attainable because it can be very overwhelming to think about trying to completely revamp your kit or you know, practice something new, carrying around maybe a recycling bin with you for all those plastic trays of fake lashes that you have. But what I've noticed as well with traveling to different pageants and connecting with different artists, they see what I do on social media, or we've been at other pageants together and they know I'm coming. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had other artists run up to me like with great big bags of mascara ones, just so excited to give them to me. And they're like, I've been saving these for you. I got my lash girl to collect them for you. I mean, everybody's just jumping on board because it's such a simple way to make a difference. And I really love that concept of breaking it down into smaller bite-sized pieces because I know for me, having the little things organized out on a to-do list and checking off the little boxes makes me feel very accomplished. So I'm gonna assume here that's probably a very similar concept happening. It's that little change, like, I'm doing something that's gonna help make a difference. And when they see my videos as well on social media of how a wildlife center has used the mascara wands to get a botfly out of a wound for a squirrel, that entices them to want to help more. So I think it's actually been a very positive experience.
nice. Um, just one more question on the makeup artistry. I've spoken to a few makeup artists, and I'm going to assume that you have like your favorite secret weapon or your favorite secret tip. So, can I just ask, what is your favorite? Let's say when you're working on a client, what is your favorite part to do? And which part is your least favorite part to do? And I ask this because I was interviewing a title holder over in Texas, and her brother was a makeup artist, and he said he hates doing lashes. And I've spoken to more than a few people who just they hate lashes. Apparently, they get stuck in weird places, and then you lose one, and then there's glue is a thing, and you don't want to glue your eyes shut. So, as a makeup artist yourself, when you're painting someone else's face, what's your favorite part to do? And maybe not what part do you hate, but what's your least favorite part to do?
My favorite is eyebrows. Now, mine personally got stuck in that 2017 trend of the really high arches, and they are struggling so hard to grow back. I totally regret overwaxing them back then. But I love shaping somebody's eyebrows because it can really elevate the look and it can, sometimes for some of my elderly clients, they find that it can even help lift the face. It snatches the face. They feel it takes the
Yeah.
years off their face. And it's that defining point in how the makeup look finishes. And it's something that's so simple, maybe people would overlook, but that's where I would spend way too much time there, honestly, if I could. I love eyebrows. Man, my least favorite part, honestly, is going to be the lips because I think when we do our own lipstick, we're so trained to make the Venus flytrap face
Hmm.
in the
Yeah.
mirror. And what I found is a lot of times when clients do that, one side of the face or different muscles get tired and things just it loses all sense of symmetry and trying to navigate around that. I'm like, you know what? I appreciate the help. You you can just relax. You don't have to do all that for me. I do appreciate it though. I think it's very sweet. But getting them to just relax and keep their mouth still to perfectly make everything nice and symmetrical. But that's even a challenge in itself is to make
Yeah.
one side match the other. And, honestly, I can't think of many people in this world who have a perfectly symmetrical face. So trying to find that balance that highlights their features, or maybe creates the symmetry that they're looking for can be a bit of a challenge. And, you also need a steady hand for that, which I found that is not one of my strong suits, but we navigate through it.
I have a good friend over in Canada who recently got crowned as Miss International Canada. So she'll be competing for Canada and Japan in somewhere around the same time as yourself. And I was talking to her on an Amazon Live. We were talking about our favorite Amazon products, and she was talking about her brows. And similarly to yourself, she loves her brows. She thinks they're her best feature. And the best compliment the compliment that makes her feel the best is when she goes into the ladies' bathroom. And apparently, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, women stop her in the bathroom and say, "Oh my God, I love your brows." And apparently that happens to her like on quite a consistent basis. So has that ever happened to you?
Yes, actually, I it's so heartwarming when I get compliments on my brows. It's something I spend way too much time on. I mean, honestly, tonight when I was getting ready for an interview, I at one point looked down at the clock, timing myself, making sure I'm doing okay on time. And I looked back up and I was like, my goodness, I just spent more time on my eyebrows than I did everything else. Everything
How,
else. But I also have this one that really likes to just hang out up here. Takes a lot to get it to stay down. This is just where it likes to stay. I'm very
uh,
exclusive with my eyebrows.
we're getting into the talent portion of the interview. Are you able to move your eyebrows independently?
Kind of. Let's see. So I have this one that really does its own, but this one does okay. So it's actually something I learned from my dad. We were sitting, I don't know, in our living room at one point when I was a kid, and he could do it so well with his eyebrows, and it just really bothered me. I couldn't do that, so I went back and forth until I could make it happen like he did. And I don't know if I regret that or not. The way this one just hangs out.
How what triggers that one to go off? Is it like a is it like judgmental? Is it like inquisitive? Like what emotion sets that one off?
Honestly, I don't know. It's something I catch in my pictures a lot too. I mean, I could just be smiling and this one's way up here. I have found that I am very expressive with my facials. Maybe I can blame it on my time that I cheered. You have all your big, wild, crazy facials you make in your routines. So I'm going to blame it on that because I don't have a better answer for it at this point.
It's just when you're not smiling. Let's say when you got your supermodel pout on and that eyebrow goes up, it just looks like when a guy has done something wrong and then his girl looks at him in a certain way. It looks like that look.
Yeah.
It's like stone cold killer, judgmental, judgmental. When you've done something to annoy a woman and she looks at you like that. That's their eyebrow just makes the whole look. Without the eyebrow, it's like whatever. With the eyebrow, though, it's like I done wrong. So, I want
I
to
can
just
see that.
let me back away from pageantry for a second because I want to get to know what you do outside of pageantry because we talked a little bit about it obviously with the makeup, and you said that you grew up on a farm, but I want to backtrack just to Gracie Pfaff because I've seen so many videos of you guys doing stuff. And I haven't seen anything like really weird, but I just get the vibe that from looking at the vibe of the video, it's like, I think you two get along too well. And I bet that when you're together, like really weird stuff is happening. And I can't remember like whether you have like nicknames or like special, like weird things that you found out about each other. But can we just
For
start with,
allergies.
well, yeah, see, I thought that because I saw your eyebrows actually go up when I mentioned the allergies. Yeah. Did
I
you
hope
put in did you put in your story that she's the most allergic person or something? Like, is she allergic
yes.
to a lot? What is she allergic to? I knew the aluminum thing. What
Ugh,
else is she
that's my
allergic to?
favorite. Because if I give her a piece of gum, I have to open it for her. I know she's allergic to red dye. She has a gluten sensitivity. I'm pretty sure she's dairy free as well. I'm trying to think, what else is she allergic to? I had the list down packed while we were together in Miami because it dictated everywhere we went out to eat. We're a great pair to go out to eat with. She's more fun than I am with all of her allergies. I'm plant based, so I know that I pose my own set of challenges, but not like she does. Goodness. I think what gets me the most is the aluminum because when she wants a piece of gum, the way I have to open it for her and hand it to her, like if anybody just watched, they'd probably think she's the most bougiest person alive to have her friend open a pack of gum for. But it's like, no, she really just can't touch it.
Please don't tell me that you actually have to put it in her mouth for her.
No, fortunately
Like,
not. But I mean, I do love her enough that she just really wanted the gum. But I think if it gets down to that point, you shouldn't have the gum. I mean, I'm
I,
concerned for her health and safety at this point. I think whatever that coating is on the inside of the gum is what protects the gum from the aluminum. So at least she can take it for herself. But goodness, no, if I had to put it in her mouth, I just wouldn't let her have it. Be like, there's just no way your body needs this right now.
I'm just surprised that, given that she's allergic to aluminum, that she would even want gum in the first place. Because I could imagine, like, she can't take it around herself, and like,
Exactly.
I don't know much about gum packaging, but all the packaging that I've seen with gum here does have that sort of aluminum on the outside. So it's just weird to me because I know Gracie very well. I'm interviewing her and her sister, actually. They're competing as
Oh,
sisters,
I'm
which
so
is kind of
excited for
cool.
that one. They're
You know,
both just doll babies.
in a couple of weeks. And see, here's the thing. Whenever I interview Gracie, I'm sure you know about Harvest 107 and her not for profit. And, she started it when she was like 12 or something, which is
Isn't
just
that crazy?
like they're celebrating their 10-year anniversary, and she's like 20 something. I'm like, what? I think back to what I was doing when I was that age. It's like, it wasn't starting up a nonprofit, that's for sure. But she seems so put together and very well spoken, and she is. But then I
Absolutely.
hear some things about the way that her little sister will tease her and does imitations of her. I don't know if you've seen that. It's hilarious. But when you guys are together, I have to imagine that it's not like that all the time, right? Like, whenever you spend a bunch of time around your pageant sisters, the quirky nature and the weird humor has to come out, right? Especially when you spend that much time and you're putting gum in her mouth for her.
Absolutely. Man, I love our time together. And it's when she took over the Tennessee title last year, my heart goes out to her. She really just busted tail to catch up because I believe she was the last one in the class, if not second to
Yeah.
last. There might have been one girl right after her. So she had a lot of catching up to do, and I really just admired her drive. But even before I saw that, I was just drawn to her. I reached out to her and was like, "Oh my gosh, you're Tennessee. I have family that lives back home in Tennessee. Please let me know what part you're in. I'd love to connect with you, get to work with you." And I think that really opened the door. We actually, ironically enough, just so happened to be on the same floor at Miss Earth USA this year in our hotel. So it was nice to get to pass each other and now to be sister queens together, be on that elemental court, but then also to have all the opportunities we've had this year. She came to visit me in Kentucky at one point. We've been together in Miami and Atlanta. I feel like there's somewhere else I'm missing. Those three for sure off the top of my head, but just getting that time together has been so nice, and I'm so grateful for her. We still talk on a pretty regular basis. She's a great friend of mine.
How much time have you gotten to spend with your elemental court, just out of interest? Because that's one of the unique things about Earth, is that you do have an elemental court. It's not just the title holder. And remind me of who the elemental court is. So obviously, there's yourself, there's Gracie. I know Angel Strong, but the others are slipping my mind. So run me through the list, and I hope you remember, because if you
Yes,
don't
oh,
remember, that'll be
absolutely.
embarrassing.
I love my
Run me
sister queens.
run me through the list, and how often do you get to spend time with them?
Let's see. So Angel is our fire, and we joke around and say that's so perfect for her with her fiery personality. And when we actually had an elemental retreat here in Kentucky back in the spring, and she was our girl to get our campfire started for our s'mores. It was too cold for a campfire, unfortunately. And
Too
our s'mores,
cold.
well, our
Too cold for a
s'mores,
campfire?
more so for the s'mores. Our s'mores were
Oh, right.
freezing before we could eat them. I mean, you'd pull them out of the fire and they would freeze over. Who knew that was
I
possible,
don't.
right? But let's see, our Miss Earth USA Air is Shauna Melvin, and I've gotten to spend quite a lot of time with her. I saw her in DC back in the spring, and I just saw her not too long ago in Maryland as she passed down
Mhm.
her Maryland title. And then our Miss Earth USA Water is Natalia, and she lives in Puerto Rico, and I haven't been able to spend any time with her yet. I'd love to get a trip down to Puerto Rico before the year ends, but I did see she is also getting ready to compete for Miss Puerto Rico Earth. So we're really excited for her. We're cheering her on and can't wait to see how she does. That would be the perfect time for me to make a trip. It's to the pageant. Decided.
You sound like you're looking for an excuse to travel to Puerto
And
Rico.
as you can tell, it's very hard to convince me.
Yeah. I just back up to the s'mores freezing. How cold was it? I'm from Australia, so I don't like the sound of this. I did spend
uh,
I spent a winter in the Midwest United States in Milwaukee, and it was so cold that the boss, I was working there for a tennis company, the boss said, "Here, take this kettle, boil the water, and go outside and throw it up in the air." And here's the Australian going, What? Okay, right. Throw it up in the air, and I kid you not, it freezes in midair and comes down as ice. And I'm like, that doesn't happen in Australia. How cold was it that it's your s'mores are freezing?
That's what we were saying. I think honestly, I mean, I don't know. At nighttime, maybe down in the 40s. I don't think it actually reached below freezing, but they
That's
were.
not too bad then.
I don't think
No,
that's
what?
too bad, but they were hard as a rock. That's not fair. So I don't know. Maybe it was colder. This would have been back mid March, I want to say. So
Right, so
our,
it's going
our
into
weather in
spring.
Kentucky, yeah, our weather in Kentucky is pretty hit or miss. We joke and say we get all 4 seasons in a week, and I think that's so true. Because at one point throughout the trip, we were staying in Mammoth Cave, the national park here, and we had gone to pick up trash throughout the park. And I mean, it was warm enough. We were in tank tops, life was great. But the day before, we
All
were in
right.
long sleeves and jackets because it was so cold still out in the sunlight.
Okay.
We just
Well,
never know what's going on here.
since you said that you have all 4 seasons in one day, just remember in Australia, that's what we say about Melbourne, not Sydney. I'm from Sydney, but Melbourne is famous for, beginning of the day, oh, it's summer. Middle of the day, it freezes over. Then it's pouring, and then by the time you go back home, it's summer and it's 40 degrees again. It's a very temperamental city. So I don't know if Kentucky is anything like that. But I did want to ask you about Kentucky because I don't know anything about Kentucky. And I've interviewed, title holders and competitors from all around the world, but I'm interested in trying to learn more about the individual states. Now, I know a lot about Texas because I've been there, and a lot of pageant girls come from Texas. The
Absolutely.
only thing I know about Kentucky is KFC. So, can you tell me a little bit more about Kentucky? And I don't even know if KFC really is like whether you guys claim that as yes, that's us, or whether it's just such a big company now that it's like not really Kentuckian, if that's the right word.
Oh, we
Word,
totally
but
claim that.
okay,
We claim
tell me
Friends
more.
Favorites.
Tell me more about Kentucky because I don't really know anything about it.
We're definitely known for our horses. That's our big thing here. We always joke and say that our horses have nicer homes than we do. When you drive through, you see hundreds and hundreds of miles of just beautiful farmland, and you'll see these beautiful stables built out for the horses, and they are so beautiful out and grazing. And oftentimes their stables are nicer than the homes that their owners live in. We really value our horses here. So we're big on the Kentucky Derby as well. I was
Mhm.
really fortunate this year. I got to go and attend the racing. It was such a neat experience for me. I love the horses, of course, and always love getting to interact when I can. That doesn't happen at the Derby, but it's really enticing to get to see the different fashions at the Derby. So we really do the big hats and the women
Yep.
wear the fascinators and the men wear the big hats. It's like a fashion show, honestly, and I love
Yeah.
to see what people are going to bring out. Kentucky, if you're into this kind of thing, we're known for our bourbon. If it's not from Kentucky, it's not bourbon, which I know ultimately it has to do with the limestone. But when you're from here, if it's not from Kentucky, it's not bourbon. But we're also big into our sports, college sports rule everything here. So our state's pretty divided. If you're a U of L fan or a UK fan, that's our big divide. And every now and then we'll catch a bandwagon, and it'll be our state versus Tennessee. And there'll be like a couple other states in the SEC that we're really big up against. But in the state as a whole, you're a UK fan or you're a U of L fan. And I used to live in Lexington, so I wore my Kentucky blue for UK.
Mhm.
But now I live in Louisville, so I wear my red. And my family are very devout UK fans. So I'd love to show up in a Louisville t-shirt just to get under their skin a little bit.
You're that kind of person, are you?
I am. And the best part too though is that I'm really just not a big sports person. So for me it's it's just giving my family a hard time because I can.
Just to get a rise out of them.
Absolutely.
You talked about horses. Do you ride them yourself at all?
I have a couple times. So actually I did once upon a time on a beach in Puerto Rico. It was so beautiful. I 10 out of 10 recommend horseback riding on the beach, whether or not it's in Puerto Rico, but that just topped it all off. My best friend growing up had horses, so we were always out at the horse shows on the weekend, and she would show and we would do, we call them fun shows. And they had different categories, but our thing was the baby bottle run. So she would sit on the saddle and I would sit right behind the saddle, and she would have a baby bottle over her shoulder that I had to drink out of. And they would run those horses throughout the ring, and the commentator would stop them and say, okay, well, now you're going to walk in reverse, and now you're going to go sideways. Okay, now go left, now go right. And it was to see who could drink out of the bottle the fastest. This sounds so crazy to say out loud, but it honestly, it was the highlight of our summer. Each and every year we traveled from one side of Kentucky to the other looking for these baby bottle runs. And I made sure that I was always able to go. I loved getting to spend time with her and her family.
When's the last time you did a baby bottle run? Is this something that's only for kids, or can adults do it as well?
You know, looking back, I want to say I did see some adults in it as well. I want to say our last one was probably my freshman year of high school. So I would have been, I don't know,
Okay.
14, 15 at the
Yeah.
time. Her and I both cheered, and we wound up going to different high schools, and our cheer schedule just got in the way of our horse show fun. But man, we made the most out of it every summer that we could. I loved getting to go out there with her.
It just sounds like would be a very interesting pageant talent to debut on the stage. I mean,
Don't give me crazy ideas here.
there's so many cliche talents. Not that they're not talents, but singing, for example, a lot of people sing, but I've never heard of someone going on stage with a horse and then doing a baby bottle run. That would
That
certainly
would be the talent.
that would capture some attention. That's for sure. If you can tame the horse. I was asking about horse riding because I hate horses because, well,
What?
partly because I can't ride them.
Okay.
Every time I try riding a horse, I can't walk for a week, and I'm sure I'm doing it wrong. Just maybe I'm riding the wrong horses as well, because people have told me when you start off on the horses that we have around here, well, an hour and a half north, they're like they're very trained to just ride on the trail, so they don't listen to anything. They don't take any of your feedback, and they will purposely. Some of the horses have this personality where they will purposely walk under a tree because they know that they'll bump you off. And so I haven't had the best experience with horses. So anytime I see someone who loves horse riding, I'm like, I don't understand it. But I mean, it sounds like you guys had fun. Maybe I should try the baby bottle run. I
Oh, it's a
think that would
blast.
be that, that sounds like it'd be a good challenge. So outside of the pageantry, you probably don't have much time at the moment for anything else. But tell me more about yourself outside of pageantry, like hobbies for relaxation. I know that you said you already cheered. Tell me a bit more about Danielle outside of pageantry, or what will you be doing come 2024, let's say February or March, when the reign is over and Miss Earth USA is done, you've handed over your title. What are some of the things that you'll be getting back into?
Well, my fingers are crossed that I'll have a new reign in my hands. See, hobby wise, this year being Miss Earth USA has taken that front burner on my life. It's been my forefront and focus. But outside of pageantry, I've always loved to go thrift shopping. I like to find old home decor and see how I can spice it up, DIY project, make it something I like in my home. My dad was an antique collector, and I always liked to take them and turn them into what I wanted. And it drove him up the wall. You don't spray paint antiques, you leave them as they are. They're prestige, but I think they're really pretty when they're gold. That's just my take on things. And I think it looks wonderful in my house. My mom and I would go through and find different clothes we liked, and we bring them home. We'd cut them up, flip them, change them, rearrange them, make them into something even better, something we liked, so that we had our one of a kind pieces. This summer, I was a part of Let's Dance Louisville. It's our version of Dancing with the Stars. Look, you can hear that Kentucky accent come out when you say Louisville. Fun fact, you have to sound like you're throwing up when you say it. But
I
I
don't know if that's a
really,
fun fact, but interesting fact. Fun.
fun
Okay.
fact. Yeah. So now, if you ever have to say something about Louisville, you'll sound like a local if you say it like you're throwing up. Nobody will ever know. We know if you aren't based on how you say it. But so Let's Dance Louisville this summer was so much fun. I did dance for a little bit growing up, but I really just wanted to cheer, and being a part of the dance took my time away from that. I wanted to run off and flip and do crazy things. But I fell in love with ballroom dancing this summer, and I really just adored my instructor. So I think once my schedule calms, I'm probably going to take that up. It was so nice to have something for myself, and he works as a real estate agent. He runs his business, his dance studio. So he's kind of got a schedule similar to mine, and he does a lot of traveling for dance. So when I came in for dance practice, what I really admired was that I had to take off my Apple Watch. I had to take my phone, put it upside down. Everything was on Do Not Disturb. And I was just Danielle, a ballroom dancer for an hour, and got to cut up and have fun and be free and take everything out of my mind for a minute. So I absolutely think I'm coming back to do dance. And I know me, I'm going to end up probably competing at that point too. Another thing I've thought about post pageantry is bodybuilding competitions. I love working out at the gym. I'm there nearly 3 hours a day. I enjoy every aspect of it. So I think something more along the lines of a bikini competition, which is more form, figure, and the leanness
Hmm.
instead of the bulk and the muscle. I don't know if I have it in me to to lift weights that heavy, but I can cut my food plans and cut and lean. I think that would be a blast. So I don't know. That's been on my plate. There was a show coming up I was highly considering, but I filled up my schedule with something else. So I took it as a sign not to focus on that right now and just be Miss Earth USA and get ready for Miss Earth. And that'll always be there post pageantry. So I don't know. Lots of things that I'm thinking about doing.
The bodybuilding competition is interesting because I've been through. I spent a lot of time in the gym and playing around with different diets, and when you're bulking up, it's you have to eat basically. I just remembered the last time I tried this, all I was eating was chicken. It was chicken breast, chicken breast, chicken. I got so sick of the sight and the smell of chicken. But it's I mean, talking about the gym, you say you're going there 3 hours a day, which is a lot. And I know that you had a very significant weight loss. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you put on some amount of weight during the pandemic, as we all did, I think. And then you worked very hard, obviously, to take it off. But can we delve into that a little bit just before we move towards a close? Because I've seen a photo that you've put up, um, and like I said, I can't imagine you blonde. I couldn't believe that was you. And then now to be, in the shape that you are now, tell me a bit more about that journey.
Goodness. I really just let go of everything during the pandemic. I started off saying this is my time to get in the best shape of my life. I was in
Mm,
college and already went to the gym every day. I didn't spend the time like I did now. I really didn't know what I was doing in there, but I loved just getting to go. And then in the pandemic, I not having somewhere to physically go really changed things for me. And especially as the weather's changed, I didn't want to go outside for a run. I
yeah.
wanted to stay inside. So I found myself eating through all of my quarantine snacks. Quite literally. I mean, I remember at one point I was like, oh my gosh, I just bought a gallon of ice cream last week. How is it already time to buy another? It was truly so unhealthy what I was doing to my body, and I just didn't care.
Mm,
So it finally got to the point that I just put on the weight so quickly that when I got out of bed in the morning, I had to sit at the edge of my bed and I had to kind of take a minute to muster up the strength because I just put on the weight faster than my body could handle.
mm,
And I remember I was driving down to go be with my mom. She was having her hip replaced. Way too young to have a hip replaced, but bone problems like this just run in our gene pool. And as I'm trying to get the car loaded to go and be with her, I'm struggling, just out of breath, having to stop, catch myself. And I realized, to be at the time, I think I was 23, maybe just turned 23, to be this young and to be in this much pain and to be struggling this bad is really bad. I'm
mm.
setting myself up for a lifetime of ultimately failure at this point, and I have to do something to make a difference. So in that moment, I called the first person I knew that was a physical trainer, and I said, I need help. I have no clue what I'm doing. My weight's yo-yoed my entire life, but I've never been this heavy. It feels overwhelming. I don't think I can get it off myself. I need help. So having that vulnerability moment and just completely surrendering and saying I need help, something I'm not good at saying, is what helped me take charge of things. And so I found in cooking chicken multiple times a day to get the weight off. I did not like chicken. I really loved animals and it totally
Mm,
grossed me out. So that's also when I became a vegetarian. I couldn't look at the raw chicken anymore.
yeah.
And I said for years I wanted to do it, but that sold the deal. So since then, just learning to love myself and love my body at every size. And it wasn't about the appearance for me. It was, I want to get out of bed in the morning and like stand
Mm,
straight up. I don't want to have to sit at the edge of the bed and catch my breath and muster my strength. I want to get up and go when I'm tired of hurting. And so in loving myself and wanting to just feel better in my own body, that's when the shift started to happen and the weight started to come off and it started to stay off. I wasn't yo-yoing like I once was. And now even looking back, I've learned to make those healthier habits, and maybe every now and then I come home and I can eat the entire kitchen, and I consider eating the entire kitchen because I think it sounds amazing, but I don't. I keep healthier options in the house. I've learned the foods that I need to help nourish my body. I've learned how these macros work. It's not some foreign science experiment. I learned, when I need to have more carbs, when my body's telling me I need more fat, when I need more protein, so that I can have a happy, healthy, balanced life. And I've really fallen in love with the gym. I work out. I love to work out at HOTWORX. You work out in an infrared sauna. So I crank that thing up to 130 degrees. That's as high as it'll go. But the sweat is so relaxing, and I feel like it always just decompresses me and helps me think forward, think ahead, and get to where I need to go next. That's actually where I was before this, is getting my sweat on. And I love every minute of it. And to see how far I've come and to see that now I'm in a better shape than I was pre-pandemic time, and it just continues to get better, is so energizing and motivating in itself.
130 degrees, hey? That's I was in Texas last year and every day was above 100 and I thought that was sweltering. 130, but see, I'm similar to yourself in terms of I love sweating. There's something very therapeutic about it. Like I play
Yes.
a lot of tennis. I was out on the tennis court yesterday and it's been hot here. We're coming into summer down south. And I remember because I worked as a tennis coach at an all-girls school. And there were so many girls who would be like, "Oh, I don't want to sweat. That's disgusting." And I just could never understand that concept because A, it's a natural bodily function, but B, it just feels. And I'm just curious about the HOTWORX thing at 130. I haven't played tennis in 130. I probably shouldn't. But my
Infrared
mind
heat is
is
totally different though than outside heat.
okay because my mind is going. That could be
Totally
interesting.
different.
What's it like working in 130-degree heat? I'm just thinking like I'd be sweating so much, I'd be dropping everything all over the place, and my towel, I'd need 10 towels. What's
Oh
that
yeah.
like?
Oh, you're totally drenched in sweat. I mean, when I come home and I switch out of my gym clothes, I have to let them hang so they don't mold in the laundry basket.
Got it.
Let's see. When you walk into the sauna, you can definitely feel the heat. And I saw that comparison between the infrared heat and the outdoor
Mm,
heat. I actually was invited to the HOTWORX convention over the summer. I've been
wow.
an evangelist over my journey with them and sharing how much I love the sweat, and, in losing 80 pounds since beginning of 2021. Goodness.
Wow. That's
So they
amazing.
invited me down as a special guest of honor, and they had an outdoor workout, and to go through the similar workouts you do in a sauna, which essentially
Mm,
are not your high intensity in the same sense you would at a gym with quicker reps. It's more slower isometric holds. But
mm,
to put that outside, even over 100 degrees, there's a huge difference. And the temperature was, I don't know, maybe 20 degrees less than what I'm used to in the saunas, but that outdoor
yeah.
heat with the humidity, totally different. But I mean, when you walk in the sauna, you can feel the heat, but it doesn't feel like it's smothering you. You don't feel that there's no humidity to it. It's just
Right.
infrared. So as you begin to sweat, you can feel your heart rate elevate, but it feels freeing in a sense. You just can feel the stress releasing, and it's energizing. And when you leave, you may be drenched, maybe soaking wet, but you
Yeah.
catch a second wind of energy after it. And that's what I love the most about it. It's so healthy. There's so many health benefits behind infrared heat, and it's really made a difference for me.
I'm now the wheels are turning in my head. Is there any way to play tennis in an infrared sauna? Probably not, but
You would need a
I
big one, but I think it's possible.
I could s I do love sweating. I sweat a lot, and as you said, it's like afterwards, it feels good in a different way. But if I just backtrack to when you decided to start, I don't want to call it your weight loss journey because I don't think that does it justice. I think it's much more an internal journey of growth, spiritual as much as anything else. But I just started working out again because took a look at myself and I was like, people say love your body, but I was looking at myself going, I'm not this. I'm better than this. It's not about hating yourself, or for me, it's just about look, I'm better than this, and I want to get back into shape. And so I just started working out again. And when one of those days when you can't walk and you can't bend down and you don't want to go to the bathroom, you don't want to go upstairs, downstairs, you just want to lie in bed. I woke up this morning, I was like that. I was like, oh my god, I can't. I remember what this feels like. How hard was it those first steps trying to take control back of your life. As you said, you reached out for help, and you said multiple times that's not an easy thing for you, but that takes a lot of courage. I think it takes a lot more courage to ask for help than try to pretend everything's perfect. How difficult were the first few steps before it sort of became habit, became routine?
I was not yet a makeup artist. I was working actually in the restaurant industry. I had stepped out of sales, was trying to figure out what on earth I was doing with my life at this point. So I took the first job that would hire me during the pandemic, and I worked nights. And man, I worked overtime. I was working in the upwards of 60 hours a week nearly every day.
Ooh.
So to make the time for the gym, that was the first thing I stressed on the phone to this trainer. It's like, listen, I cannot be in here every day. I don't have time for it. I will not
Mm,
stick with it. So my plan originally was for 4 days a week, and I had to really time manage. I had to make time for it. So if that meant when I got off at midnight, I turned around and I went to the gym and I was there until 1 a.m. with a COVID mask on, this was COVID time, then I had to do it. And it was a hard pill to swallow to realize that if I really wanted change, I had to get comfortable
mm,
with being uncomfortable. I think that's like a great life slogan there, to be comfortable with
yeah.
being uncomfortable. So I had to go to the gym with the mask on. I hated every minute of that. It was so hard to breathe, which it was hard to breathe just to be so heavy.
Mm,
But I either had to get up earlier than I wanted to go before I worked, or I had to go after I had worked. So I had to choose which option wanted there, which one was going to be harder for me. But I knew too I had to physically choose my hard. It was hard to be overweight and I could choose to stay there, or I
yeah.
had to choose my hard of making the time in my schedule, which was hard, but it was going to ultimately get me to where I wanted to be. So even on the days I did not feel like it, and on the days I had terrible workouts and was like, well, that probably did nothing for me, I still went and I still continued to go because I had to make it that habit. I knew if I wanted anything to get better for me, because what I was doing clearly wasn't working.
Mm. How when did you first begin to, because it sounds like you love working out now, so can't kick you out of the gym. When did that begin to shift? So rather than dreading the workout, when did it begin to shift where you started looking forward to it?
Ooh, once I started to see results, it became so addicting. I mean, even in college, I worked out on a regular ish basis, but I never really saw any muscle definition.
Mhm.
I was in rather good shape. I'm happy with how things were for me at that time period. But when I was really doing things right, really learning how to eat for my body and how to properly nourish my body, and I started to see results, it became so addicting. I never thought I'd be somebody who could flex in the mirror and see muscles pop, or start to see some definitely not ab definition. That's one reason, like, going back to pageantry in my teen years, there was a lot of pageants I avoided because they wanted a swimsuit, and there was no way I felt like my body was swimsuit ready,
Yeah,
which is all a mindset issue.
yeah.
But to start to see the things change and mold, and to see that you can do things you never thought were possible, like, but what if maybe I turn up the heat and I go 5 days a week? Or what if maybe, I try to lift something heavier? And so to also lift those heavier weights and to push yourself past your limits, and to see that you're so much more capable than anything you ever thought possible, was so motivating to me.
Did you say that you're vegetarian now?
I am. I still eat eggs. They're cage free. That's the only thing that keeps me at this point
Okay.
from being vegan.
Okay. Um, Give me some of your favorite vegetarian snacks because I'm wanting to incorporate more veggies. And it's ironic because I used to be vegan. I used to be a raw foodist, which is even more extreme version.
Oh my
But it
gosh.
was a while. It was a while ago, and then I went through a period where everyone's talking about protein, protein, protein. Like when you're bulking up, it's all chicken, chicken, chicken. There's no vegetables inside because you want to fit in more protein. But what are some of your vegetarian snacks? Because back when I was doing it, vegetarian options didn't exist, but now there are so many vegetarian options available and they look a lot more appetizing. I've tried some of them. What are some of your favorite vegetarian snacks?
Goodness, I'm totally going to tell it myself. I've eaten just about the same thing every day now since last summer, trying to just cut and lean as much as I can for competition time. I know it's
Yep.
not something that's required of me, but it's that mindset of I want to push myself and see how much further I can get. And for me, it's easy enough when the macros are already set out to just make the same thing every single day, eat the
Yeah.
same thing every single day. So all my food is totally bland. I don't season anything at this point, just trying to keep as lean as possible. It's one of my ways that I will feel like I'm leaving everything on the stage, and that's something that just looks different for everybody. But let's see, I actually just discovered protein ice cream. Saw a girl
Oh
on
yeah.
TikTok making it, and
Yep.
she was putting pudding powder into her protein shakes and then popping it
Yeah.
in the fridge. So I actually just made one yesterday, and I took one of the Quest protein cookies, and I
Oh yeah.
crumbled it up to kind of make a base, and I
Yeah.
threw in a banana flavored protein shake with some sugar-free vanilla pudding powder. And it was so good. Oh my gosh, could eat that nonstop. Like favorite dessert right there. And I'm normally not a banana person like that. So let's see. I also really love what is it? I'm a big peanut butter person. That is my
Oh yeah.
guilty addiction. I could live off peanut butter. I don't need anything else. That's it for me. So I love trying to, if you're trying to cut down your calories with it, I'll do peanut butter powder with raspberries, or honestly, just peanut butter with jelly. Forget the bread. I just, I just need the two things right there. That's great for me. That's a favorite. I can't call it a meal, but I eat it like it's a meal. That's why I can't keep it in the house, because I know that that's unfortunately that one area I don't have self control and discipline in. So I can't keep it in the house. Let's see, what's another favorite of mine? I love to do like a little grab and go box. So I'll do some tofu with asparagus and some almonds, just something I can easily pop in the air fryer,
Mm.
throw it in a Tupperware container, and then take it with me as I go. I always love a good protein bar. Can never go wrong. The Think protein bars are my favorite. I've learned those are also protein bars I cannot keep in the house because don't have the self control and discipline with them. I would eat the whole box if I could.
I have that same issue with protein bars. Like you mentioned Quest, and we have Quest here in Australia, and I love Quest bars. It's an acquired taste. It's a weird texture. I was looking at them, and I was doing a review on them, and you're looking at it, it kind of looks like a putty. It's not maybe the most appealing thing to look at, but I just love the taste of them, and I can't like I know they're healthy, but not when you eat 10 of them in a row and you can't stop. Like I got a box of protein bars the other day, and it's like, oh, this will last you a couple of weeks. It lasted me like 2 or 3 days because it was actually peanut butter. And I was
I
like, oh
have
my
that
God, this is
same issue.
because it's that saltiness, but it's also kind of like it's not too sweet. And I ate the whole thing. Like the whole box was gone, like within a couple of days. I was like, I can't have them in the house because it might be healthy when you eat one, but when you eat the entire box, it's maybe not such a good thing. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who finds those
Not at
things
all.
like I almost feel guilty saying I like the taste of it because like it's not food, but I love the taste of it.
It
So
totally counts though.
well, as long as it stops you. I mean, the thing is, a lot of people who judge them, they're eating, well, KFC or McDonald's or fast food and all that stuff. So I'm like, well, you live your way, I'll live my way, and we'll see what happens at the end. But Danielle, just before we go to the final 10 questions, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey?
My goodness, everybody. There's no specific one person I can pinpoint at this point, because truly all my friends, all my family, all my coaches, the organization behind Miss Earth USA, my Miss Kentucky Earth team that I I should say, I've passed down that crown. Oh, don't think about that. I couldn't be where I am without them. I mean, everybody's looked to pitch in, helping hand, looking, can I photograph this for you? Can I video this for you? Can I come and clean your house for you? What can I do to take something that's stressing you out off of your plate for you? And I'm so, so grateful for them. I mean, I don't think I could navigate through without their help. And I know I'm a hard person to take help, but to just know that I have so many people in my corner cheering me on and supporting me, knowing that they're loving me, willing to take my cats while I'm in Vietnam for a month, take that pressure off of me, that stress off of me, means so much to me. And I don't even know how to put into words how grateful I am. I feel like I'm forever indebted to the people around me, and I'm totally okay with that because I love them so endlessly.
Well, Sounds like a good group. Just pay it forward, is all I say.
Truthfully.
Now, just before we get to the final 10, Ralph was watching and he said good evening to myself and yourself. And keep up the awesome job, Danielle. I'm proud of you and you will always have my continued support. Good luck as you prepare for the pageant and see you all in December in Orlando. That's going to be for Miss Earth USA, I'm imagining. When is Miss Earth USA this year? Because last year, well, the year you won, it was literally over New Year's, wasn't it?
Yes. So this year I was crowned on January 7th, and this year I handed down December 31st.
Right. Okay. And then you have New Year's. That'll be an interesting time. That'll be a good time
Absolutely.
to.
We're having like a big industry blowout party. It'll be so much fun. I know I'm excited to see Ralph there. He's also someone who's been so supportive and cheering me on.
Okay, let's get to these final 10 questions. And as I told you, it's been a while since I've done an interview. So first challenge will be, let's see if I can remember them. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Fabulous. When we jumped on here earlier today, you might have caught it. You said, "How are you doing today?" And I said, "Fabulous."
I thought that's such a British word. My podcast co-host, I've interviewed a lot of the UK girls, and it's always fabulous. It's fabulous, darling, that sort of thing. I think you're the first American who said fabulous, so that's interesting to me. Number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Probably like. It's such a filler word, and it's something I catch myself when I'm trying to compare two things and explain it. It's one I would really just like to get. I would just really want to get out of my dictionary. How'd you girls get it?
Number 3, in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
Reaching a new goal. I'm so goal oriented. I have to have something that I'm constantly looking forward to do next. I love checking off those boxes on a to-do list and just bettering myself, but even making the most out of everything this life has to offer, because truly believe our life, tomorrow isn't promised, and we have to take advantage of each day and today. Go after it.
What turns you off?
Honestly, emptiness in my schedule. I find it's like the law of motion. A Danielle in motion stays in motion, but a Danielle on the couch stays on the couch. So when I have too many off days in a row, I start to get a little stir crazy.
When you book a holiday, are you one of those people who has to fill in every minute of said holiday with something to do?
I never thought I was one of those people, but I've looked back on my years Miss USA, and all the times that I've been to the beach this year, I figured for sure, I would totally take a morning and evening, afternoon, whatever I could get, spend some time out in the sand and the water. And I've never spent more than an hour. So I have told myself before I leave for Vietnam, I need to put one last trip I'm such a beach bum, put one last trip to the beach on the books, but actually go to the beach and spend time there. We'll see if I do that. But
if I was a betting man, I'd take that bet and I'd be betting against it. I'm going to bet it won't happen. I'm going to bet either. I think you'll make it to the beach, maybe, but I don't think you're going to be taking any time off. You will find something to do.
Probably. That's what I'm good at. But if they say you're lucky in Kentucky about the gambling on the horse races, so maybe you should take that bet.
Okay. Might have to pay Kentucky a visit. Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
My cat's meows. They sound like little Pokemon. I've never seen cats that have meows like this, and I'm honestly surprised they've been so quiet for our interview. But they have the cutest little chirps and sounds that they make.
I love cats. I have 2 cats here, and one of the cats is just like I was trying to put him into a boarding house because we're going on a boat for about a week over Christmas, and they ask what breed he is, and there's all this fancy ones like Abyssinian and Siamese, and he's just like a nothing. He was a rescue cat, and so he doesn't have a breed for like blend of everything. It was just like a domestic short hair or something like that. But it's weird to me because some people really hate cats. Some people are deathly afraid of cats as well. Marissa is actually very allergic to cats. She's in a house that has cats. She knows. But the stereotype around cats is they're very standoffish and they're very independent. I have found cats actually a lot friendlier than most people think. Mine would follow me everywhere. I had to close the door because if I didn't, he'd be in here and he'd be looking at me, rubbing against my legs if I ignored him. So I'm with you on the cats. What are your cats' names?
So I have one actually right here, and his name is Bagheera. He's named after the panther in the Jungle Book. And then I have a female who has the most beautiful markings. She has like the bullseye on the side. Bagheera is a black cat. She has like the brown and tan markings with the bullseye, and her name is Sissy.
You got a black cat.
I do have a black cat.
Lucky for you then, huh?
Absolutely. You know, I actually used to have 2 black cats. I had 3 cats at one point. Right now, unfortunately, I only have 2. One was sick and passed away, but I love black cats, and honestly, I think for the rest of my life, will look to rescue every black cat I can. They're my favorites. They're so sweet.
Number 6 is, what sound or noise do you hate?
When they're clawing on my furniture. It'll wake me up out of a dead sleep. And I don't know. I don't really consider myself to be too terribly light of a sleeper. But them on my couch, on my bed frame, it'll wake me up out of a dead sleep. They'll get that eyebrow in a judgmental way.
I know what you're talking about, because sometimes my cat, he won't scratch the scratching post. This is the thing with cats. You can buy them a $200 toy. They go and sit in the box that it came in and you can't get them out. But he won't scratch the post. He will scratch the softest thing you can find, which is normally the furniture. And the other day I got this really thick yoga mat, and it's a really nice one. What does he do? He sits on it, goes, oh, I kind of like the feel of this. It's nice and soft, and starts scratching it. And I lost my rag at him. I yelled at him and he ran away. I was like, I just got it like, a day ago, and now it's got holes in it where he's been. Anyway, the joys of living with cats.
Exactly.
Number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I'd want to fly. I want to get everywhere I want to go as quickly, as easily as possible. I mean, there's a sustainability factor to it. I love to travel, so for me, that's the answer.
Number 8, what job would you most like to attempt?
Ooh, that one. I would love to attempt being a cheer coach. My cheer days might be over, but I always loved it. I loved running around, flipping, doing all the crazy things. I'd love to take a hand at it again.
Can you still do a flip?
Funny story. I really wanted to throw one into my routine for Let's Dance Louisville this summer, so I bought an old cheer mat so I could practice out here in my backyard. I kind of still have it. I busted my butt plenty of times, and actually in that hard landing on my foot, managed to somehow pull the muscle in my quad and was down for a little bit. So, I mean, I kind of still have it. I just really have to learn my limit, and that when things hurt, that means stop, don't keep going.
Good luck learning that lesson. You sound like someone who's probably should have learned that lesson multiple times over, and it's still, in one ear, out the other. I know that mentality all too well.
Oh.
Number 9, what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
The person that has to clean the horse poop from the stalls. I don't want to do that.
That's fair enough. I don't think we need any explanation. Like, why would you not want to do that? Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I'm so proud of you. And to tell me that there's someone waiting on me and to get to see my dad there.
Very nice. Well, Danielle, that's about it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. Truly, I've always loved watching your podcast.
Best of luck over in Vietnam. Not long to go now. You've got a couple of months. Can't believe it's. Come on, I remember seeing your crowning, and that feels like just yesterday, and now it's already come around to that time of the year again. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. But best of luck. with everything. If people want to follow your journey, it's at Miss Earth USA and at the Danielle Mullins. I'll keep you on the line, Danielle, for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience. But thanks everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.